So, in my high school there is a rule that was added my junior year and is even in bold in the student/parent handbook. This rule was that students are not allowed off campus during the 10-minute passing period at all. The reason that this rule exists is that my sophomore year I was really craving a Starbucks during my first period, so in the last few minutes of the period I mobile ordered a coffee and then during break ran half a mile to pick up my coffee and walk back. I made it back to my class on time, but the school still tried to get me in trouble until I said, "Show me where it says I can't leave campus during the passing period in the handbook and I will accept any punishment, otherwise you have no grounds to punish me." And after 20 minutes of sitting in the office I got out with no punishment. Then my junior year that rule was added to the handbook. To this day it's one of my best, worst, accomplishments. They banned doing handstands at my primary school because we used to play the game where you'd sing a song and go up into a handstand, and when I went up, for some reason my arm just gave way and I landed on my shoulder and broke my collarbone. I saw my old teacher a few weeks ago and apparently that's the handstand story equivalent of the boy who swung back on his chair and cracked his head open. I got Beyblades banned in 4th grade. Circa like 2002. My mom had cheaped out and bought me an off-brand Beyblade that was heavier and I think made out of metal or something dense. Anyways, we had this one kid who would bring in the like battle dome or whatever they had. My Beyblade would collide with theirs and theirs would just go flying out of the dome at unsuspecting victims. I'm the reason my middle school had to add a no outside food to be delivered during school hours rule in the handbook. For my 12th birthday my mom brought me and like 10 other kids McDonald's during our lunch period. I guess it caused some jealousy because someone told the principal. Technically we didn't do anything wrong, but the next year, the rule was in the book. When bottle flipping popularity reached its peak about 2 years ago, my friends and I would bring in more and more challenging bottles to flip before school started, and we wouldn't stop until we landed it at least once, or it was time to leave. One day, my friend brought in a full 2-liter of Cherry Crush, this detail important for later, and told us to flip it. After failing multiple times, because it was a full 2-liter, it exploded. It scared the shit out of the rest of the kids, and got all over everything. It stained the carpet, the table, the tile, and a part of the wall were forever sticky, and stained multiple white shirts. My friends and I got suspended for a week, and when we came back, bottle flipping was banned. You know those fundraisers at school where the students sell candy to raise money for their club? I offered a larger range of candy and would offer discounts near the end of the day to finish off the end of my stock. A trip to Sam's Club and I'd be ready for another go. I made about $100 with very little effort, just carry a bag with me and people would hand me cash for a serving or two of candy. Next year, there was a rule made clearly at the beginning of the year, only school clubs are allowed to sell candy at school. Back when I was a youngin' trying to figure their shit out about what they wanted to do in life, I thought I wanted to enlist in the military. I decided to go to a National Guard weekend and one of the things we had to do was do land NAV. The map my little group had led us through a bajillion and one brambles and thorns and whatnot, and since I was the only one in my group in shorts, I got scratched, a lot. I had a few scratches very high up on my thighs that bled into my socks, that's how deep they were and how many I'd received. I ran into a few buddies a few years back and we'd gotten to talking and I found out visitors, prospective recruits, weren't allowed to wear shorts during the land NAV anymore due to me. So I got 2 stories for this. One is in 6th grade and the other is 9th grade. When I was in 6th grade we used to shoot paper at our teachers with those little rubber band hair tie whatever bracelet things. After a few months the principal got tired of hearing the teachers complain that the kids were shooting paper at them. We did it in class, at recess, at lunch, on the bus, wherever we could. That Christmas my mom bought me a big box of that shit, so I showed up to school with bags full of that shit and sold it to the kids. They got caught every time but never ratted me out, I just kept bringing it in and let them shoot it. We got in so much trouble for it now they will suspended anyone for just having a rubber band. When I was in 9th grade we had a prep rally assembly and the Spirit Week theme for that day was class colors. My grade decorated our entire building with glitter all over the floor, the walls, tables, chairs, desks, it was everywhere. 2 years later they're still trying to clean it up. They banned glitter for the entire school, nobody is allowed to use it because a few cheerleaders in student council went insane. I walked out of my second hour and it looked like a unicorn threw up. So back in the day, there was an electronics store known as Circuit City. The attire was pretty simple: red polo shirt, black or khaki pants and black shoes. Around this time, Heelys became popular, and I decided that I needed a pair of those bitchin' loafers. I got mine in black, and wore them shift after shift, scooting around the store, and fucking with customers as I silently glided between aisles and snuck up behind them. On my last day, I may have decided to have a few beers before work, and figured I would put in a few hours, get my check and bail. I also may have decided that running in said Heelys to chase after a soon-to-be former co-worker was a fantastic idea, and subsequently tripped, which resulted in me flying into a yellow concrete pole. This resulted in me hitting the pole with the palm of my hand, think Superman, but more idiotic and with poor posture, and breaking my arm. After getting a fancy cast, I filed workers' compensation, because why the fuck not? After getting approved, since there was nothing defining whether or not the black shoes were supposed to be wheel-free, Circuit City promptly amended the handbook and stated that flat black, bottomed shoes were the only acceptable kind. A year later they went under, and I still have my Heelys. My third high school. They now have special security staff just to escort problem kids to class and check the bus stop. They sucked at their job, though. I worked in the attendance office instead of having a homeroom class. So the whole office would see I was at school. I started by just putting in excuse notes for myself, being 5 minutes late for every class. Since attendance was taken then and sent in right away, so no corrections. Eventually I just stopped caring and changed my mom's number in my file so she wouldn't get the call. Much easier. I didn't feel the need to show up for classes to learn things I already knew. I'd just show up for tests since they were like 80% of the grade, anyways. Our gym where we had prep rallies was a level lower than most of the school, so there was an elevator so disabled people could get there. A few of my buddies and I would take the elevator back up with one of my best friends who was in a wheelchair because we would sit with him during the rallies and walk back to class with him and chat in the elevator. One day an assistant principal saw us get out with him and lost his mind because he thought we were using the elevator being lazy. They put a sign up next week saying to leave it elevator for people who needed it. My buddy who was in the wheelchair and his dad sent several angry emails about it because it essentially segregated him from his friends. They took the sign down pretty soon after that. I went to a Catholic school that had a strict uniform policy. I am the oldest of 4, this will be important later. For Halloween seniors are allowed to dress up while the underclassmen wear uniforms. Well, I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade and always wore a uniform. My senior year I came into school on Halloween with a t-shirt and jeans on. When asked what I was, I replied, a public school student. Next year my brother was a senior, and when the list of unacceptable costumes came up, public school student was on it. My youngest brother graduated in 2016 and it is still on the handout. During my junior year, my physics teacher did the mousetrap car assignment and held a competition to see who can make a mousetrap car go the farthest and the fastest. I spent the whole night before making it. The next day I did a test run right before the testing and my rear axle snapped in half, basically ensuring that my mousetrap car was not going to move. Anyway, the teacher assigned 50 points for having your mousetrap car there and 50 points if it moved. He gave each student at least 3 attempts to get his mousetrap car to move. Everyone in my class got theirs to move and I knew mine was basically fucked. We were doing these runs in the hallway and I was so glad that no one came out to see how mine will do. When it came to my turn, I set up my mousetrap car and let it go. The car was barely moving and I was losing my shit due to how fucked I thought it was. My teacher had to come closer, get on his knees, and see that the car is actually slowly moving. Confused students came out due to my celebration and howling only to see the mousetrap car at my knees. I got full credit for that assignment. The physics teacher did the assignment again my senior year and I saw that he changed it so that your mousetrap car had to go at least 1 foot to get those points. Maybe there were other students that were reason for it, but as of my knowledge, the teacher had me in mind. I didn't get the rule made, but a deli I worked at had a rule that you weren't allowed to eat any waste deli meat, like the dried out first slice that always got thrown away anyway, so people wouldn't accidentally slice too much and eat it. Well, they paid me minimum wage, and after a change in management, they cut my hours from 35 a week to 10, in favor of hiring a handful of underage high school girls who weren't even allowed to work the slicer, making more work for me. Since I was completely broke after that, one day I was starving to the point of being lightheaded, and ate a single dried out slice of salami, which got me written up. The worst part is, someone told on me for eating it. Joke's on them though, when I quit / was fired for unrelated bullshit reasons a few months later, the state unemployment office took my side and they had to pay out for 2 years at a rate that was based on my earlier amount of hours. I ended up getting paid more than I was making towards the end to do nothing all day. I took temp jobs here and there, which stretched that 2 years into almost 4. That was a great time. Suck my ass, Heritage's Deli, Emily, and Bob. I won.